Yeah, that's a lot better. I can hear it right away.
All right, well, I still can't hear my headphones, so we're good. We're cool. All right, you ready? Ready, Freddie?
Me.
Oh
Yes.
my God.
I got a frog in my throat.
I quit.
Have fun.
Yeah. All right. Hello, welcome back to Outside the Coach's Box. It is Victory Monday, December 11th. I'm Nick, as always, Big D. And today we are, no, we're not today, joined by a special guest. I'm Ron Burgundy lately. I am almost reading exactly what I type up for myself. There is no special guest today. It's just December 11th. Actually, that's not true. We do have a special guest sit with us today. And it is Extreme Happiness. Because today is the day that the Cowboys finally, exercise some demons of the season. It's the day after, but Cowboys beat the Eagles last night on Sunday Night Football. Let's just jump right into the NFL, and let's start with that game because that was the biggest game on the calendar. I can't think of any. I mean, I was driving for work most of the day, so.
Well, Buffalo, Kansas City was a big game.
Right, sorry. But given those two records, I would still probably say Cowboys and Eagles biggest game of the record. Biggest game of the day.
Well, it's certainly the biggest game for the Cowboys. I mean, they, all the naysayers out there that they can't win in prime time, they can't win the big games.
Bullshit.
They, all the negative things said about Dak.
Bullshit.
And the Cowboys just played really, really well. I mean, there was one or two mistakes, but those are going to happen in games, and their ability to keep pushing forward through it and dominate.
Yeah.
The Eagles was great.
Yeah. I believe it's Cry, Eagles, cry, on the road to misery. That's all I got. But no, yeah, it was a great win for the Cowboys. Obviously, us being Cowboy fans, it was a huge night. And yeah, I mean, other than that Dak fumble, really, and obviously, like, defenses aren't, in today's NFL, they're not going to stop you from moving the ball at all. So, like, A.J. Brown got his points in there, or got his yardage here and there and everything, but for the most part, Stephon Gilmore shut him down. Our defense was all in the backfield. I mean, Michael Parsons, despite flu-like symptoms in the backfield, wreaking havoc on Jalen Hurts, got a sack through like three guys. Yeah. So I think it was a good win. It was a good win by the Cowboys. But which, by the way, I know the whole Dak can't win thing is a narrative, but Dak against the NFC East, here are his numbers, right? And this is up to date after last night's win. You got against the Giants, he's 12-2. Against the Commanders, he's 10-2. Against the Eagles, he's 8-4. So overall, he's 31-8 against the NFC East as a starter.
Well, not only that, I mean, they have a record 15-game home streak.
Yeah,
win
7 games in a row against the Eagles at home.
Right. Like, so I mean that really makes AT&T Stadium a kind of formidable place to go, which didn't always used to be the case. There were times a few years back where you felt like the other team was the home team because there were more Cardinal fans, there were more whatever, whoever happened to be playing there.
Yeah, when it first opened up, it was a spectacle. It was Jerry's World. I mean, it still is. I mean, we've been there. It's an amazing place. I highly recommend anybody who's a fan of football to go there.
Architecturally incredible.
They do a really great job with the stadium, technological wise. View wise, like, it's not like I was talking to cousin Ryan yesterday, who was on the work trip with me. We were talking about stadiums, and it was actually funny. We were talking about the Giants and Jets because apparently back when they were moving out of Giant Stadium, Jets wanted a brick stadium, kind of like Lucas Oil, right? And the Giants wanted a more modern stadium. And the way he phrased it is like, yeah, they just ended with the air conditioning unit out there in East Rutherford. So because it's not appealing to a lot of people. A lot of people think that MetLife is not a good stadium, but AT&T is beautiful. But yeah, no, it was getting back to the game. It was, I think, a dominant win for the Cowboys from start to finish. They moved the ball at will against the Eagles defense that is highly touted for God knows whatever reason. I've been saying it all year long. They're not as good as their record says they are. And I know a lot of times people say you're only as good as your record says you are, but they're just not. They're not a team that I'm scared of. I will keep on repeating it. In the NFC, when it comes to the playoffs, which we can get into the playoff picture in a second, like, The only team that scares me, and it's because of their defense, is not because of their offense, is the Niners, and they're just fast, they're smart.
I would disagree slightly with you. I think they're the most balanced team there is, defensively and offensively. The defense is incredible. Yeah. They have so many weapons on offense.
I'm not saying they're not good on offense. I'm just not scared of their offense. Like, yeah, not Brock Purdy. Christian McCaffrey he's an all
Samuel, George Kittle.
I'm not afraid of those guys. Those guys. Again, Ayuk is actually really the underrated guy on that offense. To tell you the truth, he's the guy that keeps them going. And they won yesterday again, so now they're first in the NFC. If the playoffs were to end today, I love that time of year. By the way, if the playoffs were to end today, that's always the talk this time of year. But it's not. We have about 4 more weeks left, thank God, because I'm all about extending football as much as possible because I love it.
Well, and the NFL's done it. Well, at least this year it's proving out to be the case. They've done a great job with adding the additional wild card because everybody and their mother in both divisions is still in it.
Except for the Patriots, they were eliminated.
I think they're the
and they won. They won this week, which in a shocker, unbelievable shocker, to the point where, I mean, that's one of Will's picks from last game. He got wrong. He did not have a good week. He went 1-3 so far. Well, that's including basketball. He went 1-3 in his picks. He went 0-1 in basketball. He went 1-1 in football. He's saving grace today is the Giants getting drubbed by the Packers by more than a touchdown. So I did not have a good week in picks. I went 2-3 as well. I know you have a decent week. I think you're still pending one, but
I'm locked up.
Are you?
I was 1-1 in the Navy game.
Yeah, I was.
Got the over on the sneaky safety at the end, and then 3-2.
All right, let's just jump into picks for football since we're there, and we can kind of go over games. We're kind of jumping around today, but that's okay. We're gonna have an episode like that. Let's see. Let's go over your picks first, because my picks, I have 3 picks in the same game, which is the Cowboys game.
So including college.
No. Just pros. We'll get to the Army Navy review in a sec.
Gotcha.
I just want to start because it's Victory Monday. We started off strong with the Cowboys, and we're going in with the Cowboys. So,
well, then I'll start with the Cowboys as I took them in the money line versus the Eagles. So that was a rocking chair win.
Yep.
I lost the Lions-Bears over. I had it at 43. Fell a little short.
That's a tough one. It was 31.
Lions looked like they were going to start to score.
No, it's 37, right?
In the second quarter, and then they just completely went back to hibernation.
Which, again, let's talk about that game real quick while we're in the picks. But the Lions are falling off a little bit. To be fair, I told you yesterday after I got home and was watching some of the highlights. That Bears team, the way they played against the Lions, was the Bears team I thought we were going to get, and I'm sure a lot of people thought we were going to get at the beginning of the season because they were a very popular pick among possible playoff teams, which I guess because the season is playing the way they still have a chance, right? Technically speaking, although far. But Justin Fields looked good. Their wide receivers look good. Cole Kmet looked like a tight end that is upcoming, like I thought. Their defense looked good. I don't know. I'd be interested to see what happens if they had a whole healthy season out of Justin Fields. He missed 4 or 5 games, so.
I mean, when I was watching the game yesterday on both sides with Lions and the Bears, and then I saw we were talking a little bit last night in the Cowboy game. All 3 of those teams have decent running games, and the Bears, they relied too much on Fields. They weren't using Foreman much at all in the mix. The Lions rely too much on Goff. They have both Gibbs and Montgomery that are pretty formidable backfield, and they're getting spurts here and there. And then there was that one stretch in the third quarter where the Cowboys just completely abandoned the run for a second.
It was one drive, not one stretch. It was one drive.
But a drive where you've got the lead. They just had some momentum on the strip sack and turnover for a touchdown. So you don't want to give them the ball right back. And I think it was just a bad choice.
What happened on the ensuing Eagles drive though?
Is that the one where we got a fumble?
No, the Eagles went 3 and out. So.
No, all right, but still, the game is strategy. You've got to eat the clock. You've got to, protect.
There was 10 minutes left in the third quarter.
Understand?
What do you want them to do? Run the ball the rest of the way?
No, I want them to continue the balanced offense that got them to the position they were in to get that score.
I think that's one drive of a little overcoaching. It was pass on first down. Okay, we didn't get it, so now we're behind the sticks. Pass on second down, which was a screen pass that went for 1 yard, I think. and it's like, okay, it's 39, obvious passing down. You need to do something, and it's safe. It's conservative football. They went with a short pass, didn't complete it, punted the ball. That's that.
In the meantime, they had 3 incomplete passes and 0 time run off the clock, and
with 10 minutes left in the third.
it doesn't matter.
You're crazy.
It doesn't matter.
You're crazy.
It's a game with a clock. The clock can be your friend. It can also be your enemy. You want to keep it on the friend side.
But they were playing so well.
My whole point there, though, is that balance wins games, and without that balance, the Bears, I think, are too reliant on field.
Well, they're also playing. You said Foreman is their running back. I believe he was the preseason third string running back because Khalil Herbert, I believe, is still hurt. So
use him though. He was a good back. He's decent enough. You got to mix up. You got to keep the defense on their toes.
Yeah, but by putting it in Fields' hands, you still have the ability to throw it downfield. Like I'm sure a lot of those are a lot of reads for him. Like I'm sure they're not pure like QB draws. They're like, okay, we're gonna step back. If you don't see anything, use your legs.
Right.
Which again, in this NFL, like that's kind of how some of these quarterbacks have been successful.
But he's also one of those that's very quick to use his legs. Fields. There are other.
Their offensive line's not that great.
There are other quarterbacks who have running ability, who stay in the pocket longer or want to be a passer first.
Yeah, and there's some quarterbacks that quote unquote have better ability and yet have less passing touchdowns than him at this point in the season, despite missing 5 games. Who's that guy?
He had 3 last night, by the way, on a bum ankle.
Who's that guy again? Oh, Trevor Lawrence. That's right.
Your irrational hatred, man.
It's not irrational hatred.
It is.
It's justification for Justin Fields. So.
Oh, stop.
Anyway, go ahead. So we
how many games did Justin Fields miss this year?
He missed like 5, but that's the point.
How many games?
How
many games did Trevor Lawrence?
That's
miss?
the point.
What was Eli Manning's best ability?
That's the point. Oh,
I hate this guy.
You're going with like the
availability.
That's ridiculous. You're going with that argument is ridiculous. But no, you stole that from so many of our Giant fans' family. Like that. Yeah. That makes me sick. No, which I actually lost that game too. I just realized.
But it's a true statement.
-3.
All right. So anyway, you dragged on about the Bears. Colts Bengals over. I got that one.
Yeah,
at 44. Bills Chiefs thought it was going to be.
Well, hold up! Don't skip the Bengals real quick. They're in trouble. They're like in real big trouble.
They won again.
No, Jake Browning got hurt though. So AJ McCarron, yeah. So now they're either I don't know what Jake Browning's situation is if he's going to be out for extended time, but now they're down to third string. Which
he had another good game. Jake Browning had 275 yards, I think, 2 touchdowns, and then a rushing touchdown again.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, hopefully he's okay. Again, I don't know if he came back in the game. I should say, because again, I was on the road when this was happening.
I thought he finished, but
maybe he did. But it's just something to keep an eye on if they lose another quarterback. I mean, AJ McCarron is not a bad third string quarterback to have, right? Because he's been in the league forever. But
he's an Alabama quarterback, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. What do you have to say about Alabama quarterbacks?
They're not traditionally great. I know
Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa. I mean,
yeah.
Joe Namath.
Anyway,
good.
So the Bills-Chiefs game, it was exciting, but it wasn't as offensively potent as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Both Mahomes and Josh Allen were making mistakes here and there. Mahomes absolutely lost his nut at the end of the game, but I missed that over. Like I said, I got the Dallas money line, and then the 49ers took care of business against Seahawks, so I covered that one.
We're using picks as a vehicle to talk about some of these games, and you're just skipping right into them. But it's okay. I'll backtrack a little bit. So I want to talk about that Chiefs Bills game a little bit because I'll just say real quick, I lost that Seahawks game as well because I put 10.5, and I had CMC anytime touchdown scorer, and he did not hit. But so backtracking to that Bills Chiefs game real quick. One. I think Patrick Mahomes losing his shit isn't that big of a deal.
He was whining.
Hold on. I don't think it's that big of a deal in the sense of he's a competitor. I do think it's a big of a deal in like his press conference afterwards, where he was trying to justify it by saying that call shouldn't impact the end of the game. Patrick, I'm going to tell you the truth. Your offensive teammate Tony's shouldn't be off sides impacting the end of the game. Like, I think that's really weird that he took that stance. Like,
it was almost like the old mantra: you can't make that call at that point in the game. A foul's a foul. A penalty's a penalty. Call it. Because if you're calling it early, it can just as equally change the momentum of a game.
Right, and granted, it was on a fantastic play. He passes 20 yards downfield to Travis Kelce. He laterals it to Tony. Tony walks in the end zone. It was a really, really cool play to see as a football fan. Yeah. But if I was a Bills fan and I saw that he was offside and it wasn't called, I'd be pissed. if I was a Bills player and he was clearly offsides. He was well into the neutral zone.
Yeah.
Like, I think that to complain and say that he shouldn't have had that flag thrown it's just a weird take by Patrick Mahomes. It is a very weird take.
And then the other part he mentioned about how the refs are supposed to warn him. The refs don't have to warn him.
You're supposed to check.
The player's supposed to check. The refs, and they came out and said it today on ESPN. I was watching this morning that the head official said that there's no warning that has to be issued.
Yeah.
When you're blocking the line of sight of the ball, you're offsides, basically.
No, I do find it weird. Well, first of all, yeah, no. I mean, even back in high school, like, and that's what I played, high school football, like, and playing wide receiver, like, I always check. I caught my foot on the line. First thing I did was check with the receiver. Then I checked down the line to look at the ball because I'm not jumping off sides, right? Like, and then the other thing I wanted to say to that is the referee's calling that penalty. I do find that a little suspicious, or like the point of focus on that is a little weird this year. Like Macaulay gave the stats during halftime of the Eagles-Cowboys game, and he said it was like called offensive offside. It was called once 2 years ago. It was called 7 times last year and only 11 times this year. Out of like all the penalties thrown in the NFL, the fact that it's only called so minimum, I do find like to me that might be like lead to like an argument. Like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be calling it because it isn't called that often. Like, it's not an often called penalty. Like, that's just a fact by the statistics given by a former NFL referee. So that is a little weird to me. But again, at the same time, it's a penalty. It's a penalty. You got to throw it. Like, I don't find like his justification. Again, this is like lawyer mode. My brain is working here, but like if you're not, you got to give the better argument. And I think Patrick Mahomes' press conference argument was just so weak.
I don't think there is an argument. It's an unfortunate part of the game, and the better argument is on the Von Miller, which I even said during the game, that's a free play, and they never gave it to him, which was the next play.
Yeah.
It should have been a free play for Patrick Mahomes, but again, that's one of those calls that wasn't made.
Yeah.
You have to deal with it. It's part of the game, and there was nothing wrong with the call made. I thought Patrick Mahomes, he's a competitor. I learned a lot about him in the quarterback series. I thought that was really interesting. Gave great insight to him. I like the guy. I think he's a great performer. But yesterday he was just a whining baby.
No, it was
and he needs to stop. He's better than that.
It was weird. Although who has to blame for this heightened call? It's probably Travis Kelce's brother, Jason Kelce, and the Eagles, because they got called for it last night in the Cowboys game, and I think more times than not they have people lining up offside to gain that advantage in the brotherly shove, which Roger Goodell and all his clownness is going to use his like executive power to get rid of next year anyway. So who is interested to say?
To your clownness comment, I would consider that another clown move. I mean, if somebody has developed a play that is successful, stop it. When RG3 came in the league, he was like this phenomenal X Factor kind of quarterback, and nobody knew how to stop it. And then the next year, he couldn't do as much because they
tore his ACL.
No.
3 times over.
I'm talking about prior to that, though. Defenses adjusted to what he was doing.
No, his rookie year, he tore his ACL against the Ravens. Okay, you can look it up. He tore his ACL in the Ravens' last game. He played in that playoff game, which he shouldn't have, against the Seahawks, I believe, and made it a whole lot worse. Like, he should have never played that game. He would probably still be playing football today.
Yeah, I didn't think that was his rookie year. I thought that was the next year. But the point is, defenses adjust.
Yeah.
And this brotherly shove is being successful. Now, somebody's going to figure it out.
Well, I have already.
Well, you think you have?
No,
we haven't seen it in practice yet.
Because they're not going to do it, because I actually think someone will die doing it the way I did. But like, I do think that's the way to stop it, and that's the defense lines up exactly like the offense. You bunch up. You have like your corners and your safeties on the outside. That way, there's nothing there. But you have your linebacker under the nose tackle, and I put your hands under his ass, whatever. Like, pretend like you're going to take a snap, and then just treat it like that, like dive.
Yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, I do think the center and nose tackle will like collide heads and break their necks, which is not a good thing, which nobody wants in football. But
it's a violent game.
But that's that. Well, there's 2 things. 1, that's how you stop it, and 2, that's how it's definitely going to get banned, because the player.
If there's an injury that comes out of it, but if
there have been, if the Giants got hurt, three players got hurt on trying to run the same thing.
The Giants.
The Giants tried running the brotherly shove, or the whatever you want to call Apple City.
But is that truly is that running it, or just trying to mimic what they think they see? I mean, they probably don't commit the time to practice like the Eagles do to make it so efficient. I mean, I don't know. I think it would be the wrong thing to, barring any kind of significant injury that comes as a direct result of that play.
Yeah.
I don't think Goodell should ban it.
Well, again, and this is something that was brought to my attention yesterday, was that like when during that play, it actually is already inherently dangerous to a lot of tackles. And this is probably why they get yards, right? Because think about it, as Kelsey hikes that ball, he's going right, like head down right. And where is he diving at?
The legs.
The not just the legs, like the shins and ankles of and that's why they probably like back up a lot, because like if they're in their stance and like he comes right at their legs and they try to stay in that spot, he's probably fracturing a bunch of legs.
Yeah.
Like you're having a 300-pound man go right into your shins.
Several of them.
Yeah. Like, there's just no way to go about it. Again, I agree with you. I don't think that things should just be banned for the sake of. It's all about the argument. You can't make like, oh, it's an unstoppable. No, that's not the argument why which is probably going to be player safety. And again, I just want to see somebody line. I honestly, and I hate to say this because again, I would love the Cowboys to beat them, and I think it's possible. They're just going to be a tough out. But I'd love for the Niners to try it with like Fred Warner under like Hargrave's ass, and then like hands under, getting ready to take a snap. Then you have Bosa and Chase Young on the outside, and then you have Greenlaw and I don't know, somebody else, maybe Tre'Davious Ward, like pushing Fred Warner against like the two people pushing Jalen Hurts and see what happens. But yeah, I guess we'll never know. It's one of those things.
The other thing in that Bills-Chiefs game, and I showed you the highlight, it was a crazy play by Josh Allen, where he is scrambling out to the left, and two defenders are right on his ass, actually coming right at him, and he kind of turns his body parallel, so his back is parallel to the sideline, and does his underhand scoop, and I'm like, where the hell is he throwing it? And he hits, I forget.
Davis
Murray in stride, basically, out of nowhere. Just a bizarre play, and the vision these top-level quarterbacks have is incredible.
Yeah, I wish his coach would have the same vision when it comes to speeches, though. And I told you about this yesterday, but Sean McDermott came out in his Thursday press conference, and then came out again Friday, I believe, because not once, but twice has Sean McDermott used 9/11 as a rallying cry for his teammates. And typically, being a New York team, that's not a bad thing. You think 9/11, like, okay, support, like, let's come together, like the country of the United States. No. Sean McDermott decided to say, let's come together and show the teamwork and communication that the terrorists used to attack the United States, and how precise they needed to be. Twice, once when he was coaching college, and once in 2019 with the Bills. And there's just so much wrong with that. Like, number one, you're applauding the teamwork of a terrorist organization and the attack of your home country. Number two, one of the most affected states in the country, New York, where you're playing, you're tout yourselves as like New York's team. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's just bad.
Yeah, it's not very thoughtful. I mean, it's like, excuse me, it's akin to touting the political successes of Adolf Hitler for pulling Germany out of a recession.
Yeah.
Some things are just better left unsaid or left alone, or you should at least write it down on paper and push away for a little bit and come back and look. But not smart.
No, you want to write it down on paper. You don't want to even like, that's
you can always burn paper.
Sure, I guess so. Yeah, just don't type it up, right? That's it. But like, no,
don't hit send.
It was one of the most ridiculous things I saw, and I was just like, that can't be real, and it was.
Yeah.
It was.
Listen. I can appreciate rallying cries like remember the Alamo or never forget in the sense of Pearl Harbor kind of thing, but to turn around and tout the genius of a terroristic group, not good.
No, that would be like Brian Newberry going to the Navy midshipman before the Army game and say, let's go after these guys like Yamamoto and the Japanese went after. Like what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. That is terrible.
Yeah, bad thought process.
Yeah, but getting back to New York and their teams, Zach Wilson, I've been saying it all year long, is a dog. He came in there, threw for over 300 yards, 2 passing touchdowns in what was probably torrential rain, it looked like.
It was. It definitely was.
They beat the 7-5, now 7-6 Texans,
with your other dog.
Yeah, well, again, he got hurt unfortunately.
At one point, the game was over at that point.
Yeah, sure, but it was 0-0 going into halftime. The Jets put up 31 points in the second half. I wonder if Zach Wilson just said, you know what, screw you, Hackett. I'm gonna go out here and play. Like, obviously, we'll never know that, but like, you know, for a guy that was getting trashed because on early in the week it was said that Saleh wanted him to play, but Zach Wilson wasn't sure. First of all, Robert Saleh came out and said that wasn't true. But even if it was, like, I don't know. I don't necessarily blame him because it's like you've done. You think anybody can do this? You thought Tim Boyle was better than me. You thought Trevor Siemian was better than me. Like, whatever. Like, I understand wanting to be there for your guys, which I think is probably Zach Wilson's actual attitude. Like, be there for my guys, but like kind of like a fuck you to their like the coaches and the ownership. But like, he showed up, he played his balls off, and they won the game. Yeah. And again, I'm not saying Zach Wilson is the next coming of Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, whatever, but he deserves better than that Jets organization, 110%. And I hope Robert Saleh and Hackett aren't. I'm pretty sure Hackett's going to be there, but
they're all going to get a pass. They had Rodgers. Yeah. They had Rodgers for 4 plays.
Yeah,
they're going to get a pass.
I don't know if they'd be much better with Aaron Rodgers this year because of that coaching staff.
Come on,
I don't think Saleh is that good of a coach.
I don't think it comes down to coaching in this case. I don't think. Definitely, we've talked about it's not quarterbacks in this case either. It's just they've had a championship defense from the beginning of the year, and that proved out again. I mean, they just. I'd actually be interested to see they put Stroud in concussion protocol.
Yeah.
How many people the Jets have put in concussion protocol this year?
I don't think that's something that the NFL wants to do.
No, they don't. They don't want to. But that defense is just
they hit hard,
nasty, and swarms to the ball. So they were all over the place. But Mike, I mean, if Wilson felt like, oh, you think Boyle's better than me, he was not playing well. And as a coach, you've got to make decisions. You got to try and do something to spark the team to try and get a win. And at the same time, you've also got to recognize when certain players are in their own head, and maybe the thing to get them out of their head is to give them that time away to look from the sideline to what. And if you're truly care about your team and you're a player who's been put to the sideline for a second, you also got to put your ego to the sideline for a second and look and see and learn and find out what it is that you need to help the team be better. And I think, to Zach Wilson's credit, he did that, and he played great yesterday. Yeah, he was 27 of 36. So part of that is him making the right calls. Part of it's Hackett maybe adjusting, realizing finally umpteen games into the season, I don't have Aaron Rodgers back there right now. I've got a guy who's a pretty good quarterback when given the opportunity, and created some plays around him.
Well, right there, I think you just answered my rebut to that, and that is there's tons of things wrong with the New York Jets organization. Zach Wilson may be one of them, but he's not one of the top 5. Offensive line is certainly in the top 5. Gene Hackett is one of the top 5. I think that is screw the top 5. I think those are your top 2 problems. And I don't think it's Zach Wilson's fault that they are where they are. I think it's both their problems, because Hackett definitely thought, like, I don't even think it's Gene. I think I was thinking Gene Hackman, and I threw Gene Hackett out there. But whatever, Hackett. So I feel like, is it George? Like, what's his name? This is gonna drive me crazy. Anyway,
I'll find it.
So Hackett never adjusted without Aaron Rodgers. And then because he never adjusted, and the offensive line was dropping like flies, like Elijah Vera Tucker got hurt. Their left tackle got hurt at one point. Like, people were getting hurt left and right, and then nobody was protecting Zach Wilson. You can only make the reads when you're given time to make the reads. Otherwise, it's first read and run. And at that point, I think that's just like high school football, and that's not going to work in the NFL. So, again, I don't blame him. I'm happy to see that he had a good game. I've been a staunch Zach Wilson defender, oddly, because I'm not a Jet fan, and I could care less what happens to them during the season. But I think I am a fan of. I rightfully give players hate when they deserve it. I don't think Zach Wilson deserves it. Last year, like I said, 100% because of his attitude and the way he handled press conferences. Yeah. This year, not at all. And I think he's been a huge scapegoat for the Jets organization. And
I don't even think it was a scapegoat. I think Aaron Rodgers. I heard him mention something about this on your boy McAfee show.
Yeah,
that he was even saying that didn't happen, and that they need to find out as an organization who's saying these things publicly, because it's not it wasn't the case, and all it does is create a darker cloud around. And so, yeah, I agree that to a point, it's not Wilson. Wilson had a great game yesterday, and at the end of the day, the Jets are still in a playoff possibility.
Right. Well, one thing before we get to playoffs, like whatchamacallit?
And it's Nathaniel, by the way.
I think Nathaniel Hackett. Okay, way off. But the problem that I see is honestly, it starts at the top. And I honestly think Robert Saleh is a bad coach because the way he's handled the whole Zach Wilson thing, even dating back to last year and then this year, even a few times saying like, what other choice do we have? Basically, it's just like, what kind of leader is that? You're throwing your guy under the bus. You're supposed to be a leader of men, or a guy that's like, you stand in front of everybody else before like the bullets get to them. Like, at least that's the way I see coaching at every level. Like, you're the front line. If your front line is weak and be like, I don't know, go ask them. Like what are you doing? And that's on him. I don't think he's a good head coach. He might be a good defensive coordinator.
Sounds familiar to the Jets because Rex Ryan did the same thing to Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
On a team that had a great defense and a manageable quarterback who took them to the AFC champion 2 years in a row. They had the team in place, and then all of a sudden, when he didn't like it, and he threw Sanchez under the bus.
I was gonna say he defended him for so long. Didn't his wife have like a tattoo
of something like that,
with like somebody with a Jets jersey on, and it was like a 5, that was wild. The stories that came out at the end of Rex Ryan's tenure were just absolutely crazy.
Well, you had that. You had Darnold, right? He had issues. At one point, he was seeing ghosts.
Yeah. I think that was self-inflicted. I don't think Sam is a good fit for New York. I think that was like a case of like he had good talent, but like New York got to him more than anything else because you can't say things, sound bites like that and expect New York media to let that go.
No,
not at all.
Nobody does.
So at this point, like you mentioned, and we mentioned a few times, the playoffs. We'll focus on the AFC more because the NFC, although it's competitive at the top, it's pretty much set. I think at this point at the bottom, or I mean, I know there's a few pieces that can move in the wild card, but it's not as tight as the AFC because the AFC you have the Ravens at first at 10-3, the Dolphins as we stand today before Monday Night Football are 9-3, so they have a chance to get up there to 10-3. I don't know the tiebreakers there.
Miami would be the number 1 seed.
Okay, so Miami would be the number 1. Then you have the Chiefs at 8-5, the Jaguars are at 8-5, and then a bunch of
Cleveland is
8-5. And I was gonna say a bunch of wild card teams either at 8-5 or 7-6, and it's just like
you have 6 teams at 7-6.
Yeah, it's going to be insane down the stretch.
3 at 5-8.
Yeah,
one of which is the Jets.
Well, and then a few of them at 6 and 7, I believe, too, right?
No,
no 6 and 7s.
Nope.
That's crazy.
So after the 10-3, let's assume Miami wins, and you have the 2 at 10-3. Yeah. You have three teams at 8-5.
So reminder, Dolphins
6 teams at 7-6, and then no 6 and 7s.
That's insane. So no 6 and 7s and 5 and 8s. But okay. So either way, it's really tight, and like a number of people can get in, and even to the point where some of those teams in at 8-5, like the Chiefs and Jaguars, it's crazy to think, but they could be out of the playoffs. Broncos are 7-6. Chiefs are not playing well. Dolphins, and I don't know what the tiebreakers are beyond. The Broncos somehow take the AFC West where the Chiefs fall on the wild card, but Patrick Mahomes will be playing some away football and for the first time in his career in the postseason. The Jaguars, I mean, the injury to Lawrence is huge. If he can't move, if he plays defenses, like...
He played the whole game yesterday.
I understand that, but like if he... continuing to play on a high ankle sprain can't be good for you, is what I'm trying to say. I know Patrick Mahomes did it during the playoff stretch, and he did a good enough job. But if something happens where Lawrence has to miss time or can't play the way he is, and he plays against a defense that makes him run and he just can't do it, and they start losing games, I mean, the Texans are right there at 7-6. So like it's really
Texans
fascinating.
And the Colts.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot about the Colts. My buddy Pat would be really upset at me for that.
So Jacksonville's remaining games are Baltimore.
You just ignored the Pat McAfee joke there.
Your friend.
Yeah, you said your guy, so I said my buddy Pat. Yeah. So okay.
Well, it's my buddy Aaron Rodgers. So our two buddies are on the same show. Jacksonville's remaining games are against Baltimore, Tampa Bay, Carolina, and Tennessee.
Yeah, and those are a lot of teams. I mean, other than Carolina and Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee, they're 5-8. They're still in it. I mean, it depends on what happens tonight. So they're not 5-8.
No, they're 4-8 right now.
Yeah. So it depends what happens tonight. But 2 of those teams, at least the Bucks and the Ravens, are fighting for playoff position. The Bucks are number 1 in the NFC South right now at again
Yeah,
6-7
horrible
record. Like, that's going to be either Eagles Cowboys going there at this point, unless something catastrophic happens to the Niners and they lose one game. But yeah, like that's not an easy 2 games right there with the Ravens Bucks.
No.
Because I mean, again,
none of those are easy. Tennessee's a division rival. None of those will be easy.
yeah, no, division rivals. You definitely, like I said a while back, you throw out the record even in the NFL.
And they have Derrick Henry.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And then the NFC, we have not. As it stands right now, the Niners are 1 at 10-3. Cowboys are 2. Hell yeah, at 10-3. The Lions are 9-4. Thank you. Which again, they're falling off, and they could be in trouble with the Packers nipping at their heels. Then you got, like I said, the Bucks at 6-7. So really, the NFC. I mean, the NFC South isn't out of it because you have a few teams at 6-7. I think 3. I think you have Bucks, Falcons, and Saints at 6-7.
Yep.
So either one of those teams could be in that top spot, but I think they're pretty much out of the wild card. I mean, not really, but kind of at the same time because they're not good football teams. For the wild card, and again, I'm doing this all off the top of my head. I don't have anything on me. You have the phone in front of you, so wild card, I believe number 5 seed is going to be the Eagles at 10-3 as it stands right now. Although, if they win out and the Cowboys win out, they take over that 2nd seed because of tiebreakers for conference record. Yeah, Arizona comes back to bite us again.
Minnesota 7-6.
Okay, and then it would be Packers.
Green Bay
at 7-6.
currently at 6-6. They play tonight against the Giants.
Right, so Packers 7-6. Got it. But like, so I mean, it's
but
not.
Then you like the other conference. You have the Rams, Seahawks, Atlanta, New Orleans, all at 6-7.
Right, I think there's just a different. Maybe it's just the viewpoint on it that those teams aren't that good. So
Rams should have beaten the Ravens yesterday.
Right, Rams would be the exception to what I'm saying here, but most of those teams, like again, the NFC South, you look at those teams, they're like, okay. Like I don't see them as a true like contender for anything. I think they just get in there as a. I also don't think they have a lot of tiebreakers. I think a lot of the teams above them have tiebreakers against them, so you need a lot to happen if you're one of those 2 teams in order to break through.
Well, and the problem with Seattle, and the problem for Seattle is that the Rams do have the tiebreaker on Seattle.
Yeah.
So they're not only fighting to beat other teams, they got to pass somebody who's directly in front of them, who's in their division with a tiebreaker.
You're saying the Seahawks?
Yeah. And Seattle, I mean, sounds weird to say, but without Geno Smith, they're not the same.
They
team.
played well for 3 quarters yesterday. Like that was the disappointing thing about my pick at 10.5. They were recovering until they weren't, right? But like it was very close, and for what you would expect out of the Niners, like the Cowboys blitzed the Eagles and won by 20. The Niners didn't win by a whole lot against the Seahawks team that I thought was going to hang with them. So, but 16 is a lot of points in the NFL. So like it is what it is.
But the Rams are legit, and they've been playing a lot better.
Yeah.
Stafford's healthy. Cooper Kupp's finally healthy. Nakua is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
The defense is really good, and they, other than that fluke run back at the end of overtime, at the end of the game for Baltimore, they were
walk off.
Playing the Ravens incredibly well, and above them you have the Packers who are hot, Minnesota who's in trouble because Dobbs has come back down to earth. Jefferson got hurt again last night.
Yeah,
he might just pack it in at this point for the year.
I would if I were them too. Yeah. Like the injuries, not worth it to a stud wide receiver. I don't know what their plans are with Cousins, but you got to figure you can at least draft his potential replacement, bring him back in for like a year or 2. I mean, obviously the Achilles may knock him out for most of next year too, so who knows? But yeah, no, I don't know.
It's wide open though. It's fun.
Absolutely. The last few weeks of football are going to be so much fun, and this is again. I said at the beginning of the season, it's one of my favorite times of the year. This is also one of my favorite times of the year. It's unfortunately also one of the saddest times of the year because everything comes to an end, including college football, which for us, being Navy fans is basically over. Unfortunately, we'll get into that review right now. Army won the game. What was it, 17-11? Bullshit Neil at the end, put it on the over.
I like that one.
Yeah.
It's good strategy.
I just don't understand Brian Newberry's hesitation or lack. And again, I know he was hurt for a few games, but we've talked about it all year. I don't understand why he deferred away from Ty Lavatai so much, because when he got in the game, that offense looked much better than it did with.
It was more effective. Yeah,
which is I'm sorry, that means better, right?
I wouldn't say much better, but it was more effective. They were driving the ball, yes.
I mean, other than, like, honestly, like, our first play was a run to Fofana, looked good. And then from there, the wheels kind of fell off. And then, unfortunately, again, we were driving, fumble, end of the game by Army. I mean, if you didn't watch, shame on you, because it really is a good game. Somebody put it as it's the only game of the year where the men playing on the field, the only game of the year that the men playing on the field will die for the people watching it, and that's what makes that game so much fun. So again, congratulations to Army, Commander-in-Chief Trophy winners. Yep. They played really well, and again, after the game is done, you obviously want to sing second. That's tough for you being an alum of Navy, the Naval Academy. It's tough for me because of my love for the Naval Academy, mostly because of you, but it is what it is. It was a great game, and Army in the Pro Bowl. I mean, not in the Pro Bowl, in the bowl game that they're going to be playing in. Navy will go get them next year. So, oh, by the way, did you know there's another trophy given out for this game? It's called the Secretary's Trophy. I had no idea this was a thing. It's a Secretary's Trophy, yeah. That Army or Navy will either get, and it's because of the Secretary of the Navy, Secretary of the Army. So there's another trophy that gets handed. So Army walked away with two trophies at the end of this
trophies
one.
out to everybody now.
Yeah. Well, they earn these trophies. They don't just get them handed to them. But yeah.
No, I think your point's spot on too in terms of the intensity of the competition for the purity of the competition. They're not in it to make big bucks. They're not in it for NIL stuff. They're devoted to a game they love very much, and many of them know. I actually used this in one of my pregame speeches at Holy Family prior to you being there. I told the boys their assignment was to watch the Army Navy game.
Yeah,
we had a game the next day, and I talked through the game with the guys, just from this kind of perspective that these are people just laying out on the line because they have passion for the sport. Obviously, that's what as a coach you want your players to do. Mm-hmm. And then I asked them, at the end of the game, excuse me, goodness, at the end of the game, you had grown men, like 265-pound men, crying, and it was like, you understand why? And this is probably the last time that most of them will play that game, in a game they love, and then they're going on to serve their country. So, if you don't watch Army Navy game, you certainly should, just from that perspective alone.
Yeah.
But I agree. Congratulations to Army. They earned it.
Yeah.
That's why yesterday during the Cowboy game, there was a strip sack, fumble recovery, run for a touchdown in the Navy game, and then yesterday it happened to Dak. I was like, not again.
I can get the overreaction on that one now. Okay, I didn't correlate the two yesterday as I was watching the game, just because again I was traveling a lot for work yesterday, and my brain was kind of all over the place. But your reaction, I was just like, why? I was like, why are you reacting that way? But no, that makes sense.
2 days in a row.
Yeah,
enough.
So, in other college sporting news, I want to say I would bring it to basketball real quick. Actually, I'm going to bring it to college track and field, I guess indoor track at this point. And what I'm about to say, I say with all due respect, because it may sound a little mean, but it's not intended that way. Brock Lesnar's daughter is in college. And by the way, it looks like Brock Lesnar just threw a wig on. I'm gonna say that sounds mean, but I'm not.
He might be listening.
I'm not intending for it to be mean. Like she just looks like she's ripped, she's fit, like whatever. She broke the record, I think, for like long toss or something like that. And I just like, yeah, it makes sense. Like it's okay, but yeah, no, she like literally like I would be if she challenged me to a fight. Like, here's a college puppy. Like, yeah, okay, fine. Like you're Brock Lesnar. Like, see you later. Yeah. No, and again, that doesn't not supposed to be mean. I'm not trying to like comment on her looks or whatever, but like she looks exactly like her father, and yeah, scary. That is a scary thought, because anybody who's watched wrestling or UFC over the last like 10, 15, 20 years knows who Brock Lesnar is and knows that is one scary ass man. So yeah, I mean, good for her. She's probably going to sign a WWE deal in about 5 years and make millions of dollars like her dad.
Yeah,
that's basically what Charlotte Flair's done.
Write that book now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's basically what Charlotte Flair did. So then in college basketball, I'm gonna go in there. We're gonna talk about Saturday's games, because while Navy was losing to Army, 13 undefeated teams came in to the weekend. Only 8 walked out. 5 undefeated college basketball teams on the men's side lost all on Saturday. Do you have any college stuff before? I'm going to keep rolling them off.
No, keep going.
Okay. on the girls college basketball side, we shouted her a few times just because we've had the pleasure of seeing her play high school. But first triple double for Zoe Brooks,
Nice.
For NC State yesterday or 2 days on Saturday. I think it was yesterday. So congratulations to her. That's awesome. And then finally, the Heisman Trophy winner goes to Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU.
Yeah.
Actually, not really. Finally, the last note I have in here is just for me because I was watching the NBA in-season tournament, which we're about to get to, and my thought was, and you know how I'm a big jersey guy, I think at some point men become too old to wear NBA jerseys or basketball jerseys and like have it look cool, like, or maybe it's like a body type thing, and I just don't fit that mold.
Yeah.
But so I'm not gonna get jerseys, but I think I'm gonna go because I don't have a favorite NBA team, but I do like rooting for teams with my Duke players on it. So I think I'm gonna go out and try to find T-shirts or something of like all the Duke players and like either hang them up or do something cool with it because I don't know. I'm a big Dookie and there's just so many Duke players in the NBA that I root for, including on the Los Angeles Lakers who won the in-season tournament. And it's Cam Reddish. I just, all my Dukies. But yeah, so NBA, I'm sorry, did you have anything for college sports before we moved on?
College, no. I saw, the up and down of the early NCAA basketball season for the men.
Yeah.
is pretty predictable. Ranked teams losing to unranked teams, et cetera. And
teams losing by more than 93.5 points.
Yeah, that was gross. But no, that's building. So the anticipation of where the college basketball season goes is great.
Yeah.
It's great that you mentioned Zoe Brooks. It's always nice to see local talent do well at the next level. So
yeah.
She's going to only get better because she is a phenomenal player.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, getting to the NBA in-season tournament. First one comes to an end. So where we left it on Monday, we still had the semifinals to go. So the Pacers beat the Bucks, where Tyrese Halliburton had another great game. And the Lakers beat the Pelicans, where Zion was getting crushed for his conditioning and diet because he didn't do much in the game. I think he only had like 2 rebounds or something like that. And for that guy, he needs to have more. So as a Dookie, I hope he gets his shit together. I hope that he's also not pulling James Harden to try to get out of New Orleans. From my understanding, he does not want to be there. So again, I hope he finds his way and gets better because he's too much talent. I actually think he's one of those guys that should have stayed at Duke because he wanted to. I think Coach K kind of ushered him out to the NBA. Like, hey, you're too good to be here. Like, challenge yourself. But I think what a lot of coaches don't realize is that sometimes talent doesn't match maturity. I'm not saying Zion wasn't mature, but I think because his heart was telling him to stay at Duke, he should have just stayed. Like, that's just my opinion. I don't know. But getting to the finals, it was Lakers, Pacers, and the Lakers just absolutely outclassed them. I mean, they were phenomenal. They played good team basketball. Anthony Davis from the jump, it was surprising how he played. Like, because there's some games where I think he plays it kind of like it doesn't look like he wants to play, and this game he wanted to play. He dominated from the jump. He finished with 41 points, 20 rebounds, and 5 assists. Like, that's a great stat line, but like if you saw the way he played, he also played like a big man. But with that stat line, LeBron won the MVP. Yeah. So I don't know if it was incorporated like the whole in-season tournament, which the NBA dubbed him as like late tournament and everything. So there's a little debate in the world out there that like this was rigged, like it was all for LeBron, like get him the first tournament, all that fun stuff. All social media blew up with LeBron's got 1 in-season tournament, Michael Jordan's got 0. So everybody's debating that. Look, it is what it is, but there's a reason why certain teams, the Celtics are 1, they didn't make it to the finals. The Sixers are top in the East, they weren't even in the Final Four. Bucks, didn't make it to the finals. Nuggets, the Heat, who are built to be a playoff team, weren't in the finals. I just think that it's cool. I think there's a lot they could have done with it to make it more, but at the end of the day, I don't think, and it's nice for those guys. I mean, the guys at the end of the bench who didn't play got $500,000. Mm-hmm. So good for them. But I don't think that it matters in the grand scheme of it, because why? You want to make this European where there's 50 champions throughout the season because they play an X amount of championships or whatever. It's one championship.
No, I think they're trying to generate interest in the sport,
yeah,
and keep the teams engaged as opposed to being exit early kind of teams. And the NBA has been known for the tanking philosophy, right? But I think in this case, the single game format late in the tournament, like once you get to I think it's the quarterfinals or whatever, it's single game elimination. You're not in the pool anymore. Once you get out of pool play,
which is actually it's European, it's FIBA basketball, it's European basketball.
It's AAU basketball.
That too,
But just I think the single elimination format makes it exciting because we all know the postseason is going to be the best of 7, and the best of 7, the Lakers are going to be hard pressed to beat a lot of teams. I think to play that consistently.
They have the depth right now. It really depends what they do during the trade deadline. I really like Austin Reeves. Moving him to the 6th man, I think, was a really smart move because it gives you that spark off the bench. It's kind of like Manu Ginobili, not obviously to the same level as Manu had, but I think it's a great move, and he kind of showed off his handles, and he scored, I think, an easy 15 right off the bench, in the first half. I was like, that's pretty cool. Like he just came in, he's had a good run. Like here's a guy that wasn't drafted, signed a 2-way contract, blew up last year, and is now making $56 million or something like that. So good for him. Although I got a fun stat on what that means in LA in a little bit because we'll get to the MLB hot stove. But no, it was. I think for NBA fans, it was a fun thing. For players, ultimately, it didn't mean anything. ESPN debuted the Kevin Hart alternate cast again during the in season tournament, which I don't know why everybody's doing these alternate casts. And I can understand the Payne and Eli thing has been pretty good because you have 2 NFL quarterbacks, 2 probably Hall of Famer. I mean, obviously one obvious Hall of Famer, one that's going to get in.
They're both going to be.
Yeah. One that's going to get in on name only.
No, that's not fair.
I'm just saying to bust chops at this point. Yeah. No, but that's cool. And then the K-Rod cast that they do for baseball is also cool because A-Rod, I think, is one of those kind of beautiful mind for baseball type of thing. And Michael K's a great voice. I'm not a big fan of his, but he's a great voice for the game. Always has been, and I'm a Yankee fan saying that. I've actually met him in an elevator before. It was so funny. And then whatchamacallit? I don't understand the appeal. Kevin Hart's a funny guy. I just don't understand the appeal of his alternate cast, but I could be wrong. Who knows? People will probably tune in. He's a funny guy. I'll give it time. It's one game.
It's going to bring a different set of eyes to the TV basketball than it wouldn't have necessarily.
Yeah, it's funny that there's just. It's just ESPN that does it. I forgot that Pat McAfee does an alternate cast for college football. Yeah, which I know you don't like. Nope. You don't like alternate casts. Some of them I like. I wasn't a big fan. I watched the Kevin Hart one for a while. I think there's something to be said. I like hearing some of those professionals talk sports on just the regular cast. Maybe that's just me being an old head. Obviously Jeff Van Gundy's not with ESPN anymore. But when I loved listening to him, Mike Breen, and Mark. Why am I forgetting his name right now?
Jackson.
Yes, Mark Jackson. Thank you, Mark Jackson. Talk because they're 3 basketball heads that just talk basketball and talk strategy. And
it's like Tony Romo during the Sunday games. He sits there and can tell you what's happening before it's happening and why.
Right, and that's what the Manning cast does too. Payne breaks down plays. They predict. They have this thing called the prediction wall where they predict the plays and they invite on stars and everything like that to liven it up a little bit. But for the most part, it's NFL people talking NFL. So. We'll see. I mean, again, like I said, I like Kevin Hart. He's a funny guy.
He is funny.
But yeah, so I wanted to touch on Will's pick real quick. He picked the Celtics plus 7.5 against the Knicks on what was that? I think that was a Friday game.
He picked the Knicks against the Celtics.
The Knicks, yes, Knicks plus
Knicks
Celtics.
got walloped.
Knicks lost by 10.
Oh.
So that one hurts.
That's enough of a wallop.
Yeah, that hurts. It's a wallop when it matters the most.
Yeah.
And then another fun stat that I saw. Well, that wasn't a stat. That was something. Unfortunately, that will start off our NBA picks. He's 0-1. He's the only one in our pick segment at 0-1 in the NBA. But the Spurs, a while back, we talked about Greg Popovich and talk about not booing, Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs are 0-17 since that moment. By the way, 0-17. So that's a rough look. You got any NBA quick notes? You want to hit on anything?
No. I mean, I did tune in a little bit on the Lakers Pacers, and you brought it all up. I mean, Davis looked incredible. I think they spent too much time on the post game stuff, which they're going to do anyway. But LeBron,
we want to win this.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
mean,
first
he
tournament,
over. I don't know, over advertises himself or markets himself, and how great. We just love each other. There's no jealousy. Da.
I think he's a smart guy, but he always goes into everything with his kind of own agenda type of stuff.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, it kind of diminishes him a little bit because I mean, he's 38 years old. He's averaging almost 30 points a game. Like, that enough should be like, dude, you're a good player. But I agree.
How about just simply saying, listen, I'm better now because of Davis being in my lineup.
Yeah.
And we work well together. And quite honestly, this is where the better top level players are.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, Davis should have been the MVP. And just make that acknowledgement at least. You're not going to give him the trophy, but make the acknowledgement.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's December though. Like the parade that they kind of looked all like when you're in the NBA Finals and you're like everybody's together, excited. Everyone was kind of like wandering, looking around, like not knowing what to do. It was interesting. One thing I forgot to say there is they actually shut down Halliburton pretty good too defensively. So I mean, yeah, it gets to show you.
7-game series, though, you're going to adjust to that.
Yeah, no, you are. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what ramifications, if any, the in-season tournament has on the NBA. And to close it up, because as our last segment before we get to, the actual end, let's talk about the MLB hot stove a little bit. There was a lot of action this week. Juan Soto going to the Yankees in a trade. So, Yankees have, like, the top rated outfield now. They're stacked offensively. They're going to go in as the World Series favorites, at least from the AL side. So I'm excited for that. And they're still on Yamamoto. So there will be a Yamamoto possibility.
You said Soto correct this time.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I didn't say it awkwardly like last
Soto.
time. So the other thing that is probably bigger than big and almost borderline ridiculous.
It's universal.
Your boy, Shohei Ohtani.
Show me the money.
Yeah, show me the money is right. 7 years. I'm sorry, 10 years, $700 million. So that breaks down to $70 million a year for him. For a guy who can't pitch anymore because he'll need to get surgery. So you basically paid $700 million.
I wouldn't say he can't pitch anymore. He's not going to pitch next year.
And if he gets surgery, he has to miss the whole year. So you're basically paying, either way, you're paying either 9 years, $700 million because he's missing a whole year, or you're paying $700 million for a DH. That doesn't, to me, not worth it.
So I think the contract itself is ridiculously over the top. And when you go when you go to the point where you're almost doubling the current top per season salary, which is like in the 40 millions, to paying one person 70 million, paying anybody for a 10-year contract is asinine, no matter who they are, because baseball players, any athlete except for maybe Tom Brady, I guess, gets old, and performance drops. But when you look at, and I looked at this yesterday, I don't know if you had a chance to see this. This is the attraction of Ohtani. If you look and compare him to who's the greatest baseball player in history?
Babe Ruth.
First 674 games.
Yeah, they always compare the two.
But have you seen the numbers?
Yeah, I've seen, they show them all season, but go ahead. I probably don't know these specific numbers off the top of my head.
Babe Ruth to Shohei Ohtani. So I'll do Babe first, then Shohei. 159 home runs to 160 home runs, right? Win-loss 35-18 in his first 455 career innings pitched, 35-19 in his first 455 career innings pitched. Then I added for Shohei 608 Ks and 481 innings and a 38-19 winning record, 67%. I mean, but here's the problem. There's been a lot of people throughout time that they're the next this one, they're the next that one, they're the next, and they always fall off. But Shohei's an amazing talent.
You love Shohei. Don't you? You're trying to match
I love the ability.
Shohei.
I love somebody who can pitch one day and bat the rest.
But he won't be able to do that. He won't be able to do that next year. And if he needs that surgery. I don't think anybody understands. He needs that Tommy John surgery in order to pitch again.
Correct. And most people who have had the Tommy John surgery come back and are able to have successful careers
after a whole year, though.
Yes.
So what? Unless he goes on some Aaron Rodgers voodoo doctor thing where he finds a guy that does Tommy John and he's back in a month. That's not going to happen. He's going to have to sit out the year, which means the Dodgers are paying a guy $70 million to sit at home.
But you're going back to the contract point. The contract, I think the contract's ridiculous. I can understand the Dodgers are interested in him, and they should get him. Paying him,
They got. I mean,
they should got him. They should have
They
gone.
should
They
got
should have
him.
made
They
the
should
effort.
got him.
They should have made the effort to go get him. I understand why everybody was doing that, but $700 million
It's too much.
is way too much money.
To
It's
be-
ridiculous.
Put it in perspective. Here's some good stats. I love money stats. The Miami Marlins as a franchise are valued at $1 billion. The Dodgers in contracts are paying out $1.07 billion to Betts and Ohtani alone.
Jeez.
Yeah. Here's another fun stat here. Shohei Ohtani's yearly salary before taxes in California, $70 million. Shohei Ohtani's yearly salary after taxes in California, $34,858,623.
It's gross.
$623. Yeah.
It's gross. The taxes in California are gross.
That's probably why they had to pay him $70 million to stay in California.
Well, it
He's
helped.
making less than Judge. Oh, actually, probably
It
not.
helped,
Judge
I
is in New
think,
York,
that he was
so.
in Anaheim, so he was kind of used to it. You
Yeah.
know?
No, he's
But-
not making a long journey. Let's just put it
He's
that
not
way.
making a lot, but, and this is off the topic, there's no wonder why California is bleeding people when
Yeah.
you're taxing people that much money.
No new listeners.
Well, I'm in California
I know.
originally, so
No, it is insane that is what he's getting taxed and how he's getting taxed. But yeah, that's probably why they had to pay him $70 million a year. I saw that stat and I was just like, that makes sense.
it's sick.
Yeah,
To play a game. I love it.
yeah, absolutely. So, all right, another great show. So on this day in 1981, former world heavyweight champion Muhammad Ali's 61st and last fight, he loses to Trevor Berbick.
Yeah.
By unanimous decision in 10 rounds at Queen Elizabeth Sports Center in Nassau, Bahamas.
I would just like to point out that was a very old Muhammad Ali. It wasn't in his prime.
That's not how we end. All right. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, comment across all platforms. Hit that subscribe button right there. And have a good day. Go Cowboys.
Enjoy your week.
Cool. You want to turn that off?